Between 1979 and 2000, a group of MIT and Harvard students took tens of millions of dollars from Vegas casinos. They weren't cheating, they weren't hacking machines, they were playing blackjack. And they were so successful that casinos had to redesign the game itself just to stop them, building facial recognition systems, global player databases, and machines that reshuffle the deck after every hand. Hollywood turned their story into the movie 21. But the real story is far stranger and far more methodical than the film ever showed. Unlike every other casino game, blackjack can actually be beaten, legally, without cheating, without devices, without breaking a single law, using nothing but your brain and basic arithmetic. Every other game in a casino is designed so the house has a permanent mathematical edge. Roulette, craps, slots. The longer you play, the more you lose. It's inevitable, but blackjack is different. The reason is simple. In blackjack, the cards that have already been played affect the odds of what comes next. If you track which cards have been dealt, you can calculate when the remaining deck favors the player instead of the house. This is card counting. It's not memorizing every card. It's keeping a running total. High cards are good for players. Low cards are good for the dealer. When more low cards have been played, more high cards remain, and the player's odds improve. With perfect execution, a card counter can flip the casino's typical advantage of 0.5% into a player advantage of 2 to 4%. Over thousands of hands, that edge compounds into serious money. Casinos have known this since a math professor named Edward Thorpe published Beat the Dealer in 1962. But for decades, they assumed the average person couldn't execute the strategy consistently enough to matter. The MIT students proved them wrong, and the way they did it would change the casino industry forever. The meeting that started everything happened in a Chinese restaurant in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in late 1979. Bill Kaplan was talking with friends about his recent exploits. He had just spent a year running a blackjack team in Las Vegas, turning a small investment into a 35-fold return. He had delayed Harvard Business School to do it. Now his team had burned out, everyone recognized by casinos and forced to scatter across the globe. A group of MIT students overheard the conversation. They had been trying to count cards themselves, with inconsistent results. Some weekends they won, most weekends they lost. They could not figure out what they were doing wrong. They approached Kaplan and asked if he would help. Kaplan agreed to observe them in Atlantic City. What he saw was a mess. Each player used a different counting system. Some systems were overcomplicated. Error rates were high. They were making money, but leaving far more on the table. Kaplan made them an offer. He would bankroll a new team, but it had to be run like a business. Formal management, a required counting and betting system, strict training protocols, careful tracking of every session. In August 1980, the formal MIT Blackjack Team was born. 7 players, $89,000 in startup capital from investors who would share in the profits. The investors were not gamblers. They were businessmen who understood expected value. They saw the math. They saw the discipline. They saw an opportunity to make money the same way you would invest in any startup with a proven model. Within 10 weeks, they had doubled their money, and they were just getting started. The team operated like no gambling operation before it. They recruited through flyers posted around the MIT campus. The flyer said, "Earn $2,000 to $6,000 over the next 6 months playing blackjack with a professional team." Hundreds of students applied. Most were rejected immediately. Those who made it through initial screening faced what the team called the trial by fire. You had to sit at a table and play through 8 6-deck shoes with near-perfect accuracy. Count every card, make every correct betting decision, handle the psychological pressure of knowing your entire future with the team depended on your performance. One too many mistakes and you were out. Training started in dorm rooms on the MIT campus. Then it moved to backroom card games in Boston's Chinatown. Real money, real pressure, real consequences for errors. New members who survived began as mules carrying cash for senior players. They were not trusted to count yet. They watched. They learned. They waited for their chance to prove themselves. The system itself was elegant in its division of labor. 3 roles, each essential. Spotters sat at tables for hours, betting the minimum, keeping the count, blending into the background like any other tourist losing small amounts. When the deck turned favorable, they signaled. Controllers verified the count. If a spotter made an error, the controller caught it before any real money was at risk. And when everything checked out, the big player arrived. The big player was the one who made the real money. They would approach a table cold, bet large immediately, win or lose a few hands, and leave before anyone could figure out what was happening. To casino surveillance, it looked like a rich gambler getting lucky. By the time anyone realized what was happening, the player was gone. By 1984, the team had grown to 35 players. Their bankroll hit $350,000. Every partnership they formed was profitable. Investor returns range from 4% to over 300% annually. But success created a problem. Bill Kaplan had become so well known to casinos that he could not walk into a blackjack pit without being followed. His face was everywhere, and his presence signaled to security that counters were nearby. He stepped back from active play. The team continued under new leadership. J.P. Massar and John Chang, an MIT electrical engineering student who had joined in 1980. They kept winning. Then in 1992, they made their biggest move yet. Foxwoods Casino was opening in Connecticut, a brand new venue with thousands of tables and no awareness of the MIT players. Kaplan, Massar, and Chang formed a Massachusetts limited partnership called Strategic Investments. They raised $1 million, more money than any of their previous teams had ever worked with. They recruited aggressively. They trained rigorously. They deployed players across the country. By the peak, nearly 80 people were playing for the team, stationed in Cambridge, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, Illinois, and Washington. Their biggest known win came in the summer of 1992, $1.5 million at the Desert Inn in Las Vegas, a single trip. But the casinos were watching, and they had hired someone specifically to stop people like the MIT team. Griffin Investigations was founded in 1967 by Beverly and Robert Griffin, a husband and wife team of private detectives who saw an opportunity. Casinos were desperate to identify card counters, but they had no way to share information with each other. A counter banned from one casino could walk into another and start fresh. The Griffins created a book, literally, a multi-volume database of photographs, physical descriptions, known aliases, and playing patterns of every card counter who had ever been identified in a Las Vegas casino. They called it the Griffin Book. By the 1980s, roughly half the major casinos in America subscribed to the service. When a player was added to the Griffin Book, they were not just banned from one casino, they were effectively banned from them all. The Griffins heard about the MIT team, the scale of their operation, the millions they were extracting, and they made it their mission to end it. According to multiple accounts, Griffin Investigations purchased names and photographs of MIT team members. Some came from casino sources. Some reportedly came from college yearbooks. They scoured any public record they could find, graduation photos, student directories, anything that could put a face to a name. They distributed the information to every subscribing casino. Suddenly, players who had never been caught at a particular property were being identified the moment they walked through the door. The team later learned that a Griffin detective had been following them, a man with silver hair who appeared at multiple casinos across the country, always watching, always taking notes. He made it his personal mission to document their operation. One by one, players started getting backed off. The term meant a casino manager would approach, tap you on the shoulder, and inform you that you were no longer welcome at the blackjack tables. If you returned, you would be arrested for trespassing. The team adapted. They used disguises, fake names, and changed their appearances. Some members say they were never caught. Others were identified within months, but the technology was evolving faster than the players could adapt. Casinos installed facial recognition systems. When you walked in, cameras captured your face and compared it against databases of known advantage players. Disguises became less effective. Griffin's book went digital, searchable, and constantly updated. Then came the continuous shuffling machines. Instead of dealing through a shoe and reshuffling at the end, these devices returned cards to the deck immediately. Every hand was essentially dealt from a freshly shuffled deck. The mathematical edge that card counting created simply vanished. 20 years of perfecting a system, and casinos eliminated the advantage with a single piece of technology. Some casinos went further. They shortened deck penetration, reshuffling long before the deck was depleted. They trained dealers to watch for betting patterns. They used preferential shuffling, where dealers would reshuffle early, specifically when the count favored players. The arms race had tilted decisively toward the house. Strategic Investments. Disbanded on December 31st, 1993. The combination of banned players, losing streaks, and better opportunities elsewhere made continuing impractical. But not everyone quit. Semyon Dukach, a Russian immigrant who had joined the team while pursuing his computer science degree at MIT, formed a splinter group called the Amphibians. Mike Aponte, Monleo Lopez, and Wes Atamian formed another group called the Reptiles. Both teams continued through the late 1990s. Both reportedly had million-dollar bankrolls at times. Both had more than 50 players at their peaks. In 1999, a member of the Amphibians won Max Rubin's annual blackjack ball competition. The unofficial title awarded to the winner was Most Feared Man in the Casino Business. But by 2000, it was effectively over. The technology had caught up. The databases were too comprehensive, the shuffling machines too widespread. The golden age of card-counting teams had ended. Here's what happened to the key players. Bill Kaplan never looked back. He built his real estate company, Linden Properties, into a $100 million enterprise. Then he founded Fresh Address, a technology company that helps businesses maintain their email lists. He occasionally gives lectures about the MIT team. He considers blackjack a closed chapter. Semyon Dukach took the money he had won and became a venture capitalist. He sold his first company, Fast Engines, for $35 million. Today he runs One Way Ventures, a fund that specifically invests in immigrant entrepreneurs. He says immigrants make the best founders because they understand risk. Mike Aponte returned to the casino world in 2004 and won the World Series of Blackjack Championship. He now runs coaching clinics, teaching others the counting techniques the MIT team perfected. John Chang, elected to the Blackjack Hall of Fame in 2007, reportedly still plays. At the annual Blackjack Ball, he once demonstrated his skills by counting down a 2-deck shoe that had random cards removed. When he finished, he named every missing card. The crowd was stunned. Decades of practice had made his abilities almost superhuman. He prefers anonymity now. The casinos are still watching. Some things never change. J.P. Massar, the man who started it all with a blackjack course during the January term at MIT, became a community activist in California. And Griffin Investigations, the company that hunted them, filed for bankruptcy in 2005. 2 Advantage players sued Griffin for defamation after being falsely labeled as cheaters and arrested. The jury found against Griffin. The legal costs destroyed the company, bankruptcy and all. The hunters became the hunted. The MIT Blackjack Team proved something casinos do not like people to know. The house does not always win. Not if you are smart enough, not if you are disciplined enough, not if you run the operation like a business instead of a game. The house can be beaten. They won millions, maybe tens of millions. The exact figure will never be known because they kept records the way businesses do, and those records stayed private. They walked away with millions, but they kept the books private. But their real legacy is not the money. It is what happened after. Because of them, casinos invested millions in surveillance technology. Because of them, continuous shuffling machines became standard. Because of them, the game of blackjack was fundamentally changed to prevent skilled players from ever getting the same edge again. They beat the house so badly that the house had to rebuild itself. The movie 21 made their story famous, but the film invented drama that did not exist and left out details that did. No one was physically assaulted. There was no shadowy investor threatening violence. The real story was smarter, colder, more systematic than Hollywood could portray. The real story was about systems and discipline, not melodrama. It was a group of college students who treated gambling like an engineering problem. They optimized, they iterated, they scaled. And when the casinos finally figured out how to stop them, they moved on to build companies, raise families, and become the kind of successful people that elite universities are supposed to produce. The gambling was just a phase. The discipline was permanent. If you found this story fascinating, subscribe for more untold stories about the people who found ways to beat systems designed to beat them. Tell me in the comments which surprised you more, how much they won, or how long it took casinos to stop them.